Okay, let's get started. Let's not waste your time any further. Welcome to Traffic and Transportation Law. Mr. Henok, your hand is up. Do you have a question? Okay, his hand is no longer up. Okay, welcome to Traffic and Transportation Law for semester 2 of 2024. Just quickly, some of you, I have just added you to a team, and then when I was adding you all to the team, I realized I added you to the wrong team, added you to the commercial or 1B team. So I will just leave that team. You can always leave a team. So just take yourself out of this. Apologies for that. I wasn't focusing. If you want me to add, although I will also, just give me a second.
Hello, ma'am. I can't hear anything.
Okay, sorry about that. That was just a phone call that I had to take quickly. Okay, so welcome. I will share the link. I have previously shared the link to the group, to the team on the WhatsApp group. I'll share it again. If you don't somehow manage to join on your own, but please try joining on your own before sending me a message. But if you somehow don't manage, please don't ask me on the group to add you. It's very difficult. It becomes very difficult if there's like a list of 10 names or 10 student numbers and everybody is just saying, me too, me too, me too, me too. If you do want me to add you, please send me a private message. Because then once I've added you, I can delete it and I know it's been done. But if you do private message me, state the course, please state the course. I teach 4 different courses. So just a message saying, add me to e-learning or add me to Teams. I don't know which team or which e-learn to add you to. Always refer to your course. Then I have now finally, sorry for the delay. It's been a bit of a hectic semester and students are actually still registering. So everything is delayed, which makes everything complicated. But I have shared the course pack with you. That has been shared. E-learning site needs to be cleaned up. There's some remnants of 2023 that I just need to delete. When you go, because I saw previously a little while ago, somebody asked on the group for students to share the study guide. There is no study guide. There are units dealing with all the separate units, all the separate topics that we study. All of these are on e-learning. Go on to e-learning and download it yourself. You don't need to ask your friends for it. You can get it yourself. E-learning has been divided into sections with the relevant topics, with the study notes, the PowerPoint slides, any additional material, whatever. It is all there. Then there you will see, if you have looked at the course pack, there is a large number of different assessments that you will be doing this semester. I hope you've looked at those. This course, Traffic and Transportation Law, is in fact, it was one of the courses that we started using as a pilot project with the integration of integrating distance education into the faculties. This was one of the first courses that we started offering in a new manner. Now that is the way, the new manner is the way to go. It's called blended learning. So there's no full-time or part-time or whatever. It's blended learning. Some online lectures, but you are also required, lectures are only once a week. You are required to attend these online lectures, but also do a lot of self-study. You are second-year students. You've passed commercial law 1A. You are capable of self-study. To guide you through the self-study, there's a lot of exercises and assessments, a variety. So it's not the old commercial law, you just write 2 tests. Somebody already asked, is there no makeup test? I don't know why you start off the semester by asking for a makeup test. You should not be needing a makeup test. By the time you've done all your assessments, you should have sufficient marks. And remember, for traffic and transportation law, you need a 50% semester mark in order to qualify for the exam. Not 40 like commercial law, 50%. So assessments and exercises are spread throughout the semester to assist you with your study and to, in fact, compel you, to force you right from the start to engage with the work. You will not pass traffic and transportation law if you do not engage with the work as from today. This nonsense of just studying for a test and then just cramming and studying before the exam doesn't work in this course. You have to work consistently every single day, every single week throughout the semester. I've already pointed out that your semester mark in order to qualify for the exam is 50%. Now that might sound bad, you might be upset about it. On the other hand, if you already have 50% semester mark, your chances of passing the exam are so much better. If you've got a 50% semester mark, you only need 50% in the exam. If you have a 40% semester mark, you need 64% in the exam. So this is, in fact, obliging you to work consistently, but making sure that when it gets to the exam, you are fully prepared. Okay, lectures will be recorded. So for those students that cannot attend the classes, they can always download and listen to the lectures. So today we are starting off by looking at the Namibian Constitution. You'll recall from commercial law that there are different sources to Namibian law. Namibian law comes from different sources. The originating source, common law, the most important source, statutes, acts of parliament. Now, the Namibian Constitution is the most important act of parliament. just to clarify, this is because this is a common error that students make. They say that laws come from the Constitution. No, that is not correct. The Constitution itself is a law. The laws do not come from the Constitution. Just sharing my slide while I'm doing that. There's a WhatsApp here on the group that I just want to reply to quickly, which I'm finding a little bit strange. Oh, okay, somebody has already answered. There's a student that wants to know if anybody is in class. Apparently, maybe they're looking in the wrong place, in the wrong direction. Okay, so quickly give me a thumbs up. Can you see my screen? Okay, lovely. Now, just
yes, ma'am, you can see it.
While I'm teaching, I am focusing on the screen that I'm sharing. I'm not focusing. I don't have the window with a class in front of me. I have got the screen in front of me. So if you have a question, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. But just raising your hand, I'm not going to see that. So you have to speak up. Just call out and then I will give you the opportunity to speak. Please feel free to interrupt me, to ask as many questions as you like. Otherwise, if you don't want to speak up or you're in the library or somewhere, put your questions in the chat box. And during the course of the lecture, I will get back to them. Okay, so we're looking at the Namibian Constitution. This is Unit 1. Now, the Namibian Constitution is a lengthy document which sets out the rules. A constitution is a set of rules that sets out how a country should be run, how a country must be governed. Now, we don't look at the entire constitution in detail. We only look at chapter 3 of the Namibian Constitution, the chapter that deals with human rights. You must have, for the purpose of your exam, this is important, you must have a copy, a hard copy of the Namibian Constitution. You are prepared to bring it into the examination venue. And there will be a case study which you will have to rely on the Namibian Constitution. You will not be able to answer it if you do not have a copy of the Namibian Constitution. They are available for free at a variety of places. I think the Legal Assistance Center gives them out. The Office of the Ombudsman hands them out. Or otherwise, you can download and print from the internet. You only need chapter 3. If you're printing it, you don't need to print the entire Constitution, but you must have a copy. It is prescribed reading. Prescribed means you must read it. Okay, so there are your learning outcomes. Each unit is preceded by learning outcomes. I'm not going to read them to you. You can read them yourself. Once you've gone through a whole unit, always go back to your learning outcomes and check that you have met them, that you can answer the questions asked. Okay, so the Namibian Constitution, as I've already said, is the supreme law of the country. The underlying principles of the Namibian Constitution is that it creates the Republic of Namibia based on which is an independent, democratic, and unitary state based on democracy and the rule of law. The rule of law, that means there are laws that have to be obeyed by everybody. And even Parliament and your executive are subject to these laws. They cannot just do whatever they want to. Everybody has to obey the laws. It also provides for the division of power between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And then for our purposes, the most important, it provides for the protection of fundamental human rights and freedoms. Chapter 3, yes, that is what we look at. I've used big words: rule of law, unitary state, democracy. Make sure you know what these words mean. I am not going to give you the definition. Look them up in a dictionary or on your smartphone, whatever. But make sure that you understand these words. So chapter 3 sets out human rights. What are human rights? Human rights are generally accepted principles of fairness and justice that belong equally to all people. Another way of putting this, entitlements which every individual has by virtue of being human. So everybody has got these human rights. Gideon, Tuliki, Lucas, Henok, Sem, Edward, Helene, all of you, purely because you are a human being, you have these human rights. Human rights are inalienable. They cannot be given away. You cannot give away your human rights. They are indivisible and interdependent. So there's a whole lot of human rights, but they all closely linked together. You can't split them up. They are inherent. You have them from the moment you are born. You don't need to do anything to earn them or to deserve them. You have them from the moment you are born because you are a human being. Make sure that you understand these words. Then there are some YouTube references for you as well, some links that you can download, which gives you some more information and background about human rights. Now, we all have these human rights. They cannot be given away. You have them because you are a human. But on the other hand, it is also an accepted principle that we coexist. And our human rights, because of our human coexistence, our human rights are inherently limited. Except for two human rights, namely the right to dignity and the right to life. Right to dignity and right to life cannot, under any circumstances, be limited or suspended. On the other hand, all the other human rights automatically limit each other because we coexist in a society. If I can give you a random example here, I'm just choosing a student's name. Let's say Sem Ausiku. Let's say I go around and I start telling everybody what a horrible, stupid, bad person Sem is. And I tell his co-lecturers that he's lazy and tell the classmates that they should stay away from the Sem Usiko guy because he's a bad person. Can I do that? Somebody answer me quickly. Can I do that?
No, ma'am, you cannot do that because
Enoch,
you are exposing
can I do that?
someone. No, ma'am, you cannot do that because like that you are exposing someone and you are violating someone's right.
But Enoch, now I'm going to tell you, I have the right to freedom of speech. So I'm saying I may do this because I have the right to freedom of speech. This is my freedom of speech. Am I correct? Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes, it's your freedom of speech. You are right. Yes, you can say it, but to tell everyone is not right.
Enoch, you are fully understanding. Thank you for that answer. You can switch your mic off. Enoch has fully understood the point that I was trying to make. Yes, I have freedom of speech, but my freedom of speech is not more important than Sem's right to dignity. My freedom of speech is not more important than Sem's right to his good name. So I cannot say, oh, freedom of speech, and go around slandering, defaming, saying bad things about other people with any ground. Human rights limit each other. Your rights, my rights end where your rights start. Because we live together in a society, we have to respect each other's rights. Thank you, Enoch, for having that insight. In addition, some human rights are actually limited in the Constitution itself, in terms of the wording of the Constitution. An obvious example here is the right to liberty. The right to liberty is the right to freedom, the right not to be incarcerated, the right not to be locked up. Constitution says that we have the right to be, that nobody may be deprived from their right to liberty, except in terms of procedures laid down by law. So the Constitution itself, when it comes to liberty, limits the right to liberty and says that you may, if the correct procedures have been followed, people may, under certain circumstances, be deprived of their right to liberty. So yes, obvious example there is arrest. People that have or can be arrested if they are under suspicion of committing a crime, or if they have been found guilty, they can be sentenced to a jail sentence. That is, in fact, depriving them of their right to liberty, but that is allowed if it is done, because it is done in terms of procedures laid down by law. Furthermore, the Constitution also provides that human rights can be limited for specific reasons. If there are valid reasons, Constitution is very strict when it comes to the limitation of human rights. If there is a decision, a legal decision to limit these human rights, there must be a very specific reason. The period of time must be stipulated, and they may only be limited to the extent necessary under the particular circumstances. An example that you will all be comfortable with, all understand, during COVID-19, certain human rights were limited. The right to freedom of movement, for example, due to the particular circumstances, those rights were limited at the time. That was totally legal. So who looks after these human rights for us? Who protects them? In terms of Article 5 of the Namibian Constitution, the rights and freedoms must be upheld and respected by the different organs of government and persons in Namibia. Different organs of government, so also the legislative and the executive, must also uphold and respect these different. They are not above the human rights. They are not above the Constitution. Human rights are enforced by the Namibian courts. You did Commercial Law 1A, you've passed Commercial Law 1A, you know how the Namibian court system works. Constitution itself stipulates that the courts are independent and must be free from interference. Other branches of government cannot interfere, cannot tell the courts what to do. Courts have the power to set aside legislation if Parliament makes a law which is contrary to the human rights and freedoms in the Namibian Constitution. The court has the right to set it aside. Court can also grant an interdict. An interdict is a court order to stop certain behavior. If somebody is infringing your human rights, you can get an interdict to stop them. And they can also award monetary compensation, damages in cases where human rights were infringed. In addition to that, the Office of the Ombudsman is also charged with the protection and enforcement of human rights, primarily by organs of state. So if a state-owned enterprise or a government ministry or whatever is infringing on your human rights, the Ombudsman can interfere there. So before we start looking at some individual human rights, any questions so far? No questions. Okay, on page 3 of the notes, there is a list of the particular human rights, the specific rights which are protected in the Namibian Constitution. You don't need to memorize this list. I'm not going to ask you in any assessment to write down a list of all these different human rights, but you need to understand them. In the notes, I have not discussed all of them. I have singled out a few that we concentrate on. And then apart from these specific rights, there are also certain fundamental freedoms that are guaranteed. Once again, you don't need to remember the whole list. You need to understand what they mean. So, okay, we've already spoken about the right to life. The right to life is absolute. The right it includes, the obvious interpretation is that the right to life means the right not to be killed. But it goes further than that. It also places a duty on the state to create conditions which will enable all persons to enjoy human existence. When I'm discussing these individual specific rights, always ask yourself, how does your chosen field of study, how does transportation, you're studying towards a Bachelor of Transportation, how does transportation fit into this whole thing? How does this human right impact on transportation? How does transportation impact on this human right? The right to life, for example, the duty must create, the state has the duty to create conditions which will enable all persons to enjoy the human existence. Where do roads and transportation fit into this? Think for a moment, is somebody going to try to give me an answer here? How do you think, what is the relevance of transportation on the right to life?
Sorry, ma'am. Repeat again about the question. Seems like I didn't get you well.
How does transportation affect or interlink with the right to life?
Link what?
Is anybody going to try? Poor Enoch is trying, but he's got such a noise in his background. He's not the only student in class. Somebody else help us as well. The interaction between the right to life and transportation.
According to my own understanding, ma'am, the
Yes,
link
Enoch?
in between, yeah, according to my own understanding, according the link between transportation and real life is that transportation need to be considered as a serious issue, and it need to be having a restriction to in order to have a free movement of people that can able to save life of pedestrian and give the priority to whoever to not use it.
Thank you, Enoch. Thank you for trying, and you are correct. You're showing the insight there. I'm appreciating your effort. Thank you, Enoch. The rest of you, I am not appreciating your silence. This is an interactive class. I'm not even sure whether anybody other than Enoch is in the class at the moment, because he's the only one that's reacting. I think the rest of you have just logged on and then gone off to have lunch. The right to life, the state, the government, the right to life is not just the right not to be killed, but the state, the government has the duty to enable people to live a decent life, a proper life. You need transportation for that. You need roads for that. It doesn't help that there are wonderful schools and big hospitals, but the people from the village cannot get there because there's no road. Establishing a proper transportation network in a country is part of the state's duty to provide for the right of life for its people. Traffic and transportation law is not difficult. It is not difficult. It is, in fact, yes, madam?
Sorry, ma'am, can I answer that question?
Yes.
I think it brings the commodities to the local suppliers and to the end users.
Absolutely. Transportation, bringing commodities from suppliers to end users. People they need food. They need to be able to eat.
Yes, ma'am.
If they cannot get, the food can't get to them, or they can't get to the food, they can't eat. So transportation, the transportation sector is integral to the right to life. Common sense, not fancy law, people. Common sense. This whole course is based on common sense. There will be so much in here that when I teach it to you, you'll say to me, oh, but I know that. This course is actually a lot easier, even though it's level 6 and not level 5 like commercial law. It's actually a lot easier. Just get your heads around the fact that it is not fancy legal concepts. It's common sense. Okay, the protection of liberty, we've already spoken briefly on protection of liberty, the right not to be deprived of freedom. This right is not absolute. You can be arrested if proper procedures, according to procedures laid down by law. Liberty also goes further than just personal freedom. The right to liberty, protection of liberty, also includes the right to be left alone, to your own idea of a good life. In addition to the right to life, the right to human dignity is also absolute. So it cannot be limited, cannot be suspended, cannot be infringed upon. The right to liberty, dignity, is very closely interlinked with the right to life. You have the right to life, but not just the right to life, the right to live a dignified life. It overlaps with in fact, with all of the other rights. Human dignity includes freedom from poverty and disease, the right to a clean and healthy environment, the right to live your life in the manner that you choose, the right to be respected, the right to your good name. I cannot go around slandering and saying bad things about Sim because it infringes on his right to dignity. Equality and freedom from discrimination. An important right, but also one that is often abused or misunderstood. The right to equality and freedom from discrimination states that all individuals are to be in Namibia are to be accorded the same treatment. There should be no discrimination against any person on the grounds of sex, race, color, ethnic origin, religion, creed, social or economic status. This does not mean that people may not be treated differently. Different treatment is allowed if there are valid reasons for it. A very obvious and prominent example of an act of parliament which is actually discriminatory is the Affirmative Action, the Employment Equity Act, which states that if you are appointing people in jobs, preference has to be given to certain previously disadvantaged groups, to people of color, to women, and to disabled persons. Now, that act actually literally discriminates against white men. But it's legal. It's not unconstitutional. Why? Because there was a reason for that act, namely to address past injustices. Different treatment is allowed if it is grounded on valid reasons. People under the age of 18 may not vote. That is discrimination. But it is allowed because the age of 18 is based on the fact that it is deemed that people under the age of 18 do not have the maturity to make this type of decision. So discrimination is allowed under certain circumstances if there is a valid reason for it. Article 11 and Article 12 go hand in hand. Arrest and detention and the right to a free trial. They are discussed in the notes. Important aspects or just highlights from these two particular rights is that you can only be arrested and detained on lawful grounds. For example, committing an offense. A person who's been arrested must be informed in a language they understand of the grounds for their arrest. They must be brought before a magistrate within 48 hours or as soon as possible thereafter. The right to fair trial, fairness of a criminal trial. Evidence may not be obtained in an unconstitutional matter. Very important aspect that you are innocent until proven guilty by a competent court of law. Trials must be in public unless there is an exception to that. For example, children are involved. Trials must take place within a reasonable time. Reasonable time, not too late, not too short. Accused people must be given the opportunity to prepare for their trial. They must be allowed to legal assistance. They must be allowed a lawyer if they can't afford one themselves. The state must provide them with them. And during the trial, they must be allowed to state their case and call their witnesses. Okay, then I've skipped some. But I want to say, the fact that I don't have slides on them and that I'm skipping them now doesn't mean you can ignore them. I just chose for the purpose of the lecture to focus on a few. I need to I'm jumping all the way now to, I'm not sure of the article number, not good with numbers, the right to administrative justice, because I need to explain here, do not confuse the right to fair trial. The right to fair trial, that is in a court of law. When somebody has been accused of a crime, somebody has been accused of a crime and is being tried. Article 12 is the important one. Administrative justice does not involve people in courts. Administrative justice refers to actions taken by bodies exercising public power. So government departments, state-owned enterprises, local authorities, etc., etc. All actions taken by government departments should be lawful, reasonable, and fair, and should not violate the rights of individuals. So if you go and you apply for a taxi license, let's get a name here. Let's say Tuliki goes to the Roads Authority and applies for a taxi license. And the officials there say to her, no, we can't give you a taxi license because women can't drive cars. What human right is being infringed here? Her right to freedom of discrimination, but also her right to administrative justice. So don't confuse the right to a fair trial and the right to administrative justice. Okay, that's what there's a whole slide about that. Do not confuse the right to a fair trial with the right to administrative justice. And then the fundamental freedoms, look at them as well. And then very important, and we will still during a lecture time, but we don't have time for that now. But at the end of these notes, on page 7, there is a sample case study. Please make a note of that in your examination and probably in your face-to-face test as well. You will be getting a case study on human rights. There's an example of a case study on page 7 of the notes. Go through that to see how it is answered. That is why you are required to have a copy of the Constitution in class with you, in the exam, in the venue with you. Okay, wonderful. Further questions? If there are no further questions, then we can end here. Thank you for attending the class. It's a bit upsetting that there are only 21 students out of, I think, a possible or an enrollment of 80, but never mind, maybe the rest of them will listen to the recordings. If you have any questions about anything that I said in class today, Henok, your hand is up. Henok, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question, ma'am.
Yes, what is your question, Henok?
Right now, I'm not yet enrolled on e-learning, so meaning that I don't have an access to the notes. So you kindly enroll me, ma'am.
I will share Unit 1's notes on the group now, just after this lecture. And I will also, I still need to update the e-learning site. So I will then also state self-enrollment so that you can enroll yourself. But I will give you notice of that, but I will share the notes in the meantime. Thank you, Henok.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's it then. If you have questions about the work, please ask them on the group. Use the WhatsApp group as a study forum as well to ask questions. Thank you.